It's Levack and Goz on 104.5 The Team.
Joining us on the phone right now, our good friend from ESPN, the Mothership Sports Nation, who covers the Giants, Jordan Ranaan. Jordan, you took, in the Sports Nation draft for number 2, you took the running back, Saquon Barkley. Is that what the Giants are going to do?
I did. I mean, look, I can't make trades, right?
Right.
So I'm forced to, let's be clear, I'm forced to make a pick there, and Sam Darnold is not on the board. So in that scenario, I think that it will come down to Bradley Chubb or Saquon Barkley. And then Saquon Barkley, when they go and they say, all right, who are we going to take in this spot? I know the positional value. A lot of people around the league think the Giants are going to take Bradley Chubb. Just when my gut tells me they're in that spot, Darnold's off the board. They look at their board and say the best player in this draft is Saquon Barkley, and they take him. Would I do that? That's a different story. But I'm just I'm predicting what I'm saying. The Giants, what I think the Giants would do in this situation.
So if they're not going quarterback at 2, does that mean they're not going to go quarterback at all, or does that mean Davis Webb and Eli Manning are a better combination than we've been led to believe?
Well, what's the use of going quarterback if you're not going to go quarterback at 2? Right? You already have a mid-round quarterback on your roster. You're trying to add another mid-round quarterback? Is that the goal? I don't – look, the only reason we're talking quarterback here is, A, Eli Manning's 37, but B, because they're in a rare spot that they're picking second in a draft, which has 4 pretty highly regarded quarterbacks. So maybe the Giants don't view them as 4 perfect prospects or 4, out-of-this-world quarterback prospects, but the bottom line is these guys, there's going to be probably 5 quarterbacks, in my opinion, selected in the top 20 picks, including Lamar Jackson, and the Giants pick second in the draft. So, yeah, it's either number 2 or bust when it comes to quarterback, in my mind.
I guess there's some Giants fans that hear that and get a bit confused that there's that much of a drop-off in that franchise's mind between Darnold and everybody else that they wouldn't consider some other quarterback at 2?
Yeah, I mean, look, no, I don't think anybody really knows except for Dave Gettleman. It's a total wild card in this draft, okay? Let's make that clear. The Giants have been especially quiet. Trust me, nobody's hearing anything outside the real inner circle out there. They've been told to be especially quiet this year. Dave Gettleman put a mandate on that, and people that you usually hear from on draft stuff, trust me, those people are not hearing from the same people that they've heard from in the past. So if Dave Gettleman came out and just came with an outside the box and all of a sudden picked Josh Rosen, yes. I mean, I wouldn't be stunned. Like, anything is possible in this draft. There's a new regime. Nobody really knows what Dave Gettleman will do in a situation like this with a 37-year-old quarterback, or just drafting a quarterback in general, because he's never been in this position as a general manager, right?
Right.
I mean, if you think about it, he showed up to Carolina. Cam Newton was already there. He wasn't going to ever draft a high quarterback. He already had Cam Newton, the number 1 overall pick, on his roster. So everything was built around that, which is obviously, what anybody would do, right? You have to have a number 1 overall pick who you realize is a really good player on your roster. There's no reason to get into that quarterback market. So this is a rare spot for the Giants. It's a rare spot for Dave Gettleman. No one really knows how it goes. Now, I will say this, right? You look at the quarterbacks, right? Sam Darnold fits the Giants mold. He has these, I talked to tons of evaluators and coaches on this. His makeup, they love it. His makeup is perfect. He's handled pressure. He's 20 years old. He would sit and grow and learn behind Eli. Makes a lot of sense, right? Baker Mayfield, now you say, okay, if it's not Darnold, right, who are the other 3 options? Baker Mayfield would not fit in what this team, it would be hard-pressed for you to convince me that ownership would think that Baker Mayfield's the way for this team to go in regards to, he has that attitude, which, granted, some people love, right? But that's just not the kind of figurehead and face that the Giants organization, I don't think, is looking for, okay?
Right.
So I'd be really surprised if it was Baker Mayfield. And if you tell me, okay, what about Josh Allen? Dave Gettleman, who is a self-proclaimed film junkie, right? You're telling me he's going to go sit down and watch film of Josh Allen, who one personnel evaluator told me his quote was not a good player. You're telling me Dave Gettleman is going to sit down and watch tape of a guy who was called not a good player by somebody? He's going to sit down and watch tape and come away saying, oh, yeah, Josh Allen, that's our guy. Well, that's our franchise quarterback, right? The tape on Josh Allen isn't great. The traits are great. The tape isn't great. He's never been a superstar player at any level in his life, right? Maybe at a lower level, but high school, he wasn't a big recruit. Junior college, he didn't even light it up. Played pretty well last year at Wyoming, but, 2 years ago, last year, pedestrian. So you'd be hard-pressed to tell me that those two guys. Now, Josh Rosen is the one that I think maybe in the back of my mind saying, if they pulled that out and what would seemingly be out of nowhere at this point, that wouldn't totally surprise me. But the other two, if you're talking about, and you want to throw Lamar Jackson in there too, yeah, especially at number 2. But, you say, tell me Josh Allen or Baker Mayfield, yeah, I'd be very surprised if the Giants went that route. Also, let me say this. There's a pretty big sentiment going around the league right now that Baker Mayfield might be the number 1 overall pick.
Whew. ESPN's Jordan Ranaan with us right now. Jordan, you said you when you made this pick, you weren't allowed to trade back. Are you hearing any rumors that the Giants will do that?
I would not be surprised if the Giants trade back. It is something that you've heard a little bit about. Look, it makes sense, right? If the Giants aren't in that quarterback market, what makes most sense if you're the Giants? Trade back.
Right. I mean, if you can get it.
Now, the question is how far, what you get in return. Is it worth it? Who you going to target? Who you looking to get later on? And where do you land? To me, look, Denver, maybe, although you heard they're trying to move back, maybe Denver, if they, out of nowhere just say, okay, let's say we want Baker Mayfield, and he's there. And Darnold or Allen go 1, and all of a sudden they say, we want Baker Mayfield, right? Maybe on the Denver. But, the Colts, they want to move down. They don't want to move up. The Broncos likely want to move down, not move up. So who's going to move up? The Buffalo Bills are obviously the number 1 target, right?
Mm-hmm.
But they're picking 12 and 21. Do you really want to drop to 12, or do they need to have another trade set up where they can get the super haul from the Bills, who get the 12-2, and then the Giants get down to 12 and then move back into the top 10 with all those assets they pick up, with some of them at least, not all of them because that wouldn't make sense, but some of them. And then get back to 6, 7, 8, and end up with Quentin Nelson. They still have their gold jacket guy, right? And that's what Dave Gettleman wants from this draft with such a high pick, a gold jacket guy. But in that scenario, they could pick up assets, pick up draft capital, and then still end up with a potential gold jacket guy. So I would say that is definitely in play. And I've heard some rumblings starting to come about that. But that being a pretty serious option. So I definitely would not rule it out at this point.
Well, speaking about rumblings, there were some rumblings that Dez Bryant has some interest in joining the New York Giants. Any updates on his status going forward?
Yeah, Dez Bryant wants to come to the Giants. But do the Giants really want him? Dave Gettleman sat here and preached about building a culture. That would be quite an interesting move if Dez Bryant was the way to go about helping rebuild your culture of a team, right? And seriously, I mean, how much are the Giants going to invest in weapons? If let's say if they happen to draft Barkley, are they really going to go say, all right, we need Barkley, we need Beckham, we need Shepard, we need Beckham, Shepard, who am I missing? Ingram,
yeah.
Barkley, and we need Dez Bryant? Really? How many weapons do they need? Is that what it's going to take for this offense to be successful? I don't know. Sure, he has a skill set that's still usable. He could still be a successful player in the league. But I have a hard time imagining that the Giants are the most likely landing spot for him. When you talk about they don't have a ton of money, right? He would have to come on this super cheap. Just the rebuilding of the culture thing with Gettleman, the whole him and Odell in the same wide receiver room, it doesn't seem ideal to me. I'd be surprised if it happened.
Jordan, what's the future of Eric Flowers?
The Giants would love to get rid of Eric Flowers. I just don't know if they're going to be able to do it. I noted that over the weekend. Not exactly thrilled that he's not here at this offseason. It's hard to even comprehend what would go into that decision-making process. I'm sorry. And, everything Dave Gettleman wants. He wants, like I said, rebuilding that culture, right? That's a tough thing to do with Eric Flowers. I mean, he doesn't really fit that mold either. But there's financial ramifications that go into it. There's dead money that they would have to eat. That rookie contract is guaranteed. So, I mean, they could save $2 million, but I'm estimating, by the way, off the top of my head. it's about save $2 million and then pay him $2 million. $2 million in dead money if they get rid of him or cut him or anything. So, I mean, if you cut him, you got to eat the whole $4 million. So, yeah, I mean, there's a lot that goes into it. If they can get something, I wouldn't be surprised even the slightest if they did it this weekend. But it's a matter of whether they're going to be able to get something or not. That's to be determined. As one source told me, like from another team, he's like, seems like, I mean, that's a decent amount of money, and it seems like too much trouble. I wouldn't want him in the building. So there's a lot that goes into the Eric Flowers situation. Would they get rid of him? Sure, they would. Can they get rid of him? Not so sure.
Jordan Ranaan from ESPN. Before we let you go, OBJ, does he play on the current contract or does he get a new deal?
I don't see how it would possibly work. Why would he play on the current contract? Why is he going to go on the field in training camp? Why is he going to go on the field in the preseason and he's going to go play for $8.5 million when there's a $60 million guarantee out there waiting for him? That's not going to sit well. I mean, yeah, sure, the Giants want him to do it, right?
Right.
It works for them. I mean, it's totally for their benefit. But would you, as a businessman, put $8.5 million at risk for $65 million?
No.
Is that a good decision for Odell Beckham to get on the field and risk him? Especially after last year, twice he had his career basically flash in front of his eyes, right?
Right.
He got slammed in that preseason game and messed up his ankle. And then so his leg gets shattered. So that is a pretty big risk to get on the field, right? Until you absolutely have to.
Would the Giants give him anything, though?
He's working on the side now, but that's different. He's not taking hits from guys, right?
Right.
He's not banging with guys. It's a big difference to say, oh, he's going to get on the field and start playing football with guys.
Right.
I don't see that happening unless they're either super close to getting something done or they get something done. I mean, it's just bad business.
Would they? So the Giants would be willing to do something. They would be willing to at least negotiate something out.
The Giants have a choice here, right? They can the deadline is tomorrow. They either have to commit to trying to sign him long term or trade him by tomorrow. Otherwise, what's going to happen this year? He's not going to get on the field for most of the time, or at least until he absolutely has to. It's going to be a circus. It's going to be hanging over this team. He's going to want to get paid and not put himself at risk. I mean, they have to make that decision of whether they want to re-sign him and do it basically by tomorrow.
Jordan, just to clarify,
right?
what time?
Do you think how do you think it'll go if they decide, if they basically tell Odell they're not really serious in negotiating, but they want him to play? Just play out your deal.
Oh, it'll go horribly, but I just want to get a clarification on the time. So he could be traded like during the draft tomorrow? Is that 11:59 tomorrow? Is that noon tomorrow?
I mean, it could be any time during this draft weekend, but I mean, the thing, their decision has to be made, right? You have to make a decision by the time you're going to pick in the first round of like, okay, what direction am I about to take here, right? With the whole organization, they should know already. All right, it really needs a decision that should be known. They have to make a decision because how do you guys envision that playing out if they say, oh, no, we don't really want to pay you long term. We want to string you out here. You think that's going to go over well? That's not going to affect their season. That he's just going to be like, okay, that's fine. I'll just go out there and do my job. No worries.
But I've seen teams play hardball before. I mean, it happened in this same division with Washington and Kirk Cousins.
Yeah, but he was getting paid $28 million on a franchise tag.
True. That is, definitely true.
There's a big difference between, first of all, he's a quarterback, too. It's a little different. He needs to be in there. He's the leader in the huddle. But he was getting paid significantly more on the franchise tag. You're talking about a guy who's playing on a fifth-year option that's significantly lower than that number we're talking about with Kirk Cousins. Yeah, I mean, do you think? Hold on. Do you think Aaron Donald or Khalil Mack are really going to play this, or step on the field and play, or willingly come out and go to training camp and be in exhibition games if they don't get paid? I don't think so.
I know, but
I don't think any of those guys. I mean, any of them would be crazy to go out there.
So why have that fifth-year option in the?
So their team's paying.
So Jordan, why have that fifth-year option in the contracts? You know what I mean? If no teams are going to go by it.
Well, it's for the mediocre players.
All right, okay.
It's not for the superstar players. It's totally. I mean, basically, it's totally team friendly. It's not that friendly for the players, right? If you're a stud, you don't want that fifth-year option. You want to get paid for real, right? And if you're a team, you pick it up and you could have a guy play under it, and you could drop. Like, it's not even guaranteed when they pick it up the year before. Like, it's only guaranteed if the guy gets injured. Like, if they just decide the guy stinks, they could just say, no, you know what? A year later, you know what? We're not actually going to pick up that fifth-year option. So it ends up turning out to be a totally team-friendly option. Oh, we'll keep it if you're worth it, and we'll dump you if you're not worth it.
Right.
After playing that fourth year of the deal. So yeah, it's more for like the mid-range players who you're still okay. We'll pay him a solid salary at $8.5 million, and then it's good, and everybody likes that, right?
Right.
You're not a star, but you're good enough to pay a good solid salary, and they'll take it for the 1 year. Say, hey, at least I'm guaranteed $8.5 million.
Right.
You know, Kelvin Benjamin, something like that. It makes a lot more sense for everybody, right? Oh, 8.5, that's not a bad deal, right?
Oh.
But for Odell Beckham Jr., who's watched Sammy Watkins in his draft class get $16 million a year?
Yeah. Yeesh.
And Odell Beckham's going to sit there and, oh yeah, sure, I'll play for $8.5 million this year. How do you think that fits?
No, I didn't think it would go over well, but you know.
Go look right now, okay? Yeah. Go look at the wide receivers in that class. Okay? There's like the 4 first-rounders, except for Sammy Watkins, who is now on his next deal. But it's like Mike Evans just got his deal, right?
Yep.
But it's like Odell, Brandon Cooks, and maybe Kelvin Benjamin playing on the fifth-year option, right?
Right.
And then, like, everyone else is drafted in the second round of the deal, the Jarvis Landrys of the world. And there's a bunch of other good receivers I can't remember. Oh, Allen Robinson and all these guys. There's like 4 or 5 other guys that got paid this offseason big-time money. And they're making double of what guys like Beckham and Brandon Cooks are scheduled to make.
Yeah.
How do you think that plays with those guys? Like, oh yeah, sure. Oh, yeah, no problem. This is a great deal for me. 1 year, $8.5 million. And Brandon Cooks and Allen Robinson are making $15-16 million a year.
No, I can definitely see it being an issue, but I
Jarvis
guess
Landry. I mean, right?
Right. No, you're right. Jordan Ranaan, Sports Nation, ESPN, the Giants insider, man, helping us make sense of the draft. Where are you watching the draft, man?
We come to the team facility.
Ooh. Nice.
You know, that's where the general manager and the coach come out after the pick, and they explain what the heck they just did.
Nice.
So this will be a big one. Number 2 overall pick.
Follow you on Twitter. Get the insight.
I'm pretty sure the Giants don't want to be in this situation next year. Saying we're picking at number 2 overall.
No, absolutely not. All right, man. Well, we appreciate you. We're up against it, but man, thanks for calling. Thanks for making sense.
You got it, guys. Anytime.